Good afternoon, everyone. It's not 5:30, but I think we can risk a minute. We'll go ahead and call to order a special meeting of the City of Trinidad Historic Preservation Commission. Today is September 20th, 2023. And if we could start, Ms. Tara, with roll call.
Yes. Elizabeth Kelly.
Here.
Derek.
Here.
Carlos is absent. I don't know if he was trying to connect. Chris.
Here.
Lauren.
Here.
All right.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and proceed with our agenda, looking at item 2, public comments. Do we have any public comments this evening, either in-house or online? Well, not online, right? But is there anyone here that wants to speak publicly generally? We have our hearings coming up, but this is for public comments in the beginning. Hearing none, we'll move on to number 3, approval of the minutes. We have 2 pending minutes, April 12th, 2023. We've got to figure out what to do with those minutes. We don't have a quorum of people that were there to vote on them. They're kind of just on hold. So if we can resolve that so we can take it off the agenda and not keep revisiting each time, that would be super.
Okay.
And then the minutes from August 9th, 2023. So do we have a motion to accept the minutes from our August 9th, 2023 meeting?
I make the motion to accept the minutes from August 29th.
And I think we're in the same boat with these, Tara. Well, we need a procedural direction. So neither of these gentlemen were present at that meeting, so I don't believe they can vote on those minutes, correct?
I don't believe so. I'll
And
ask.
we don't have a quorum otherwise, and Carlos is not here, so we'll have to also put those on
Well, he
hold.
wasn't here either.
Pardon?
Carlos wasn't here as well.
So,
Right.
yeah, it was only you and Shirley
Yeah.
and Derek.
So we're unable to vote on those minutes.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Motion stricken.
Pardon?
I said in my motion stricken.
Okay, number 4. So we have 3 public hearings this evening for certificate of appropriatenesses. How this is going to go, just a brief kind of primer for our new members, is we have to open and close each one, so I will gavel in and gavel that out. Our job as the HPC hearing these certificates is really based on the fact that they're located in the core zone in the National Historic District. And our job is to recommend either approval with modification, or not approval to, in one case, planning and zoning, and in the other case to City Council. So it's just a recommendation that we're making. It's not our final approval. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Alrighty, so let's start with 4A, and I will now open a hearing for certificate of appropriateness application for First National Bank regarding replacing of the digital sign under the First National Bank sign on Main Street. And I believe we have a staff report, and I think that's kind of what Tara does, but do you want to wait, or?
No, it's up to you. Alfred was saying it was your decision on how we wanted to go forward.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want me to just say I did a statement, or do you want me to read it, or?
If you could just give a summary of the staff report, and then how this also goes, just so everyone knows, is we have an opportunity to have some comments and questions from the commission, and when we close that, then we have require a vote, motion for the, as I said, approval with modification, or disapproval, and then we vote.
Yeah, we're trying to.
3 times, okay?
Okay.
So, Tara, can we start with First National Bank? We've got staff reports, but if you wouldn't mind just...
I'll read the executive summary part
Okay.
that way. The First National Bank has applied for an alteration to the building with an attached sign that is located at the corner of Main Street and Commercial. This is located in the boundaries of the Corazon D Trinidad National Historic District. The structure was constructed in 1890 and was named the first national bank in Trinidad in 1934. The application is complete and based upon the criteria that is located and outlined in the Trinidad Municipal Code, Section 14171. The First National Bank in Trinidad is requesting to replace the digital sign that has been on the building for the last 53 years due to the current sign being obsolete.
Thank you. Is there someone from First National Bank that would like to speak or come forward?
All three of us.
I'll just sit by, stand by.
Good evening, I'm Ed Eisman.
Hi, nice to
Thank
meet
you
you,
for
sir.
holding this hearing for us.
Thank you.
I'd like to elaborate a little bit on the description of the device and a little bit about its history. And Chris is going to provide a little more information about its lifespan and its usage over the many years that it's been on the building. The pictures that you've seen in the document that Tara read from is it actually is a rectangular box that is suspended beneath a neon sign that has the name of our bank. And none of that will change. What has happened is that the software that actually Chris uses to put messages on the screen is obsolete, and it's not safe to have that, nor is it operationally functional for it to be used within our network. It's that old, and it's past its lifetime. And for that, there's no more patches, there's no more ability to make it work. And it's become more and more dysfunctional over time since it hit end of life. And so that's why we've had discussions with a sign vendor, and what we're wanting to do is basically replace the electronics inside that rectangular box. And it would be circuit boards and display panels that have LED bulbs. In the earlier life of the sign, they were actually incandescent bulbs. And we don't want to bring a Jumbotron to downtown Trinidad. It's way inappropriate for the character of the district. And so I don't want you to think that we're going to make it something where you're seeing a lot of action videos. What we're wanting to do is just replace the LEDs and the circuitry located in the box with modern circuitry. It's actually got hit by lightning, we think, and that's what's wrong with the innards of that box right now. One of the last hailstorms we had damaged the neon above it, and my opinion is that it's very Art Deco. It actually is much older than, I know there's one image in the package that says 1970, but I'll let Chris elaborate on the birth date of the sign to give you an idea of how old it is.
Yeah, the picture from 1870 is the original sign. The sign that I've been operating for the past 30 years it was installed probably about the time that I started working for the bank, which is 30 years ago. So I don't have the exact date of when that was, when the lights were replaced and it became operated by the computer. But I have been the person who's put those messages out there for the past 30 years. And we put the time and temp, which will probably always be on there. But then our main goal is to promote events in the community with it. And occasionally we do put bank messages on there, like for example, we're going to be closed for Memorial Day weekend or certain hours for the holidays or something like that. But for the most part, we gather information about the events going on and put messages about what's happening. And I have very strict format as far as how much I will put on there because it is on the corner of Main Commercial, and there is traffic stopping at stoplights, and we don't want to ever hold up traffic, and so I make sure that they're no longer than maybe maximum 10 seconds, if even that. Usually it's like 3 or 4 lines that flash through at 1 second intervals, so between 5 and 7 seconds with messages. And then just only one message at a time, so we're not putting 3 different events out there, we're putting one event. We may run it for a half a day or a whole day and then switch it the next day. And just for whatever this is worth, I have a file folder about this thick of stuff that people email me, could you please put this on your sign? And I keep it organized by date and try to change it to benefit as many organizations as we can. So we look at it as a community service type thing, and like Ed said, we're not wanting to make it look like a TV screen. We're trying to keep it the look and feel of it pretty much what it's been for the past 30 years. It's going to be one color, red, and it's going to be time and temp and then these brief messages. So that's what our intent is. And since
Yeah, and I thank you, and I appreciate,
Sure.
just to be clear for everyone involved, so that what we're really doing here is weighing in on forwarding this to planning and zoning for a conditional use permit, correct?
Right, and from what the sign person explained to me, and I think I understood it from Tara as well, is that because we are in,
You're non-conforming now because we're not allowed to have any signs like that, especially in the historic district.
right,
We have to get permission to allow it to be updated. So if you hadn't changed anything and you kept the sign, we would have no issue, but the fact that you're updating the sign is now making us you need to conform. But that would mean removing the sign, and we don't want to do that since it's historical.
right.
It's been there for a long time.
Obviously, it's not been there as long as the building has,
Right.
but it has
Been
been
there
part of the
a long
community
time.
for as long as pretty much all of our
Like
memory.
I said, I was
guess
surprised
you
when I
could say.
saw the picture from 1970,
Right.
seeing that sign has been
was
there.
there for a long time, so.
So are the dimensions the same?
Yeah, it'll be the exact
Yeah,
same size. We
okay.
made sure that we didn't want to change, like I said, the look or feel of it. We just need to be able to operate it, and that requires updating technology. And the new system is going to be driven by a web-based server, so I'll be able to send messages to it through the internet.
All right. A couple more quick questions, but I'll defer to y'all. Do you have anything that you want to ask
I
about?
just wanted to clarify, the exterior of the box is really the same, it's just the panel that's changing, or?
I would have to look back at the original bid. They may be planning to replace the outside box.
It's still staying the black.
It's gonna be
As long
the
as
same,
it's
it's gonna look the
Looks the
same,
same,
it's
yeah.
gonna look the same,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We actually had them come down and measure it, and
Wow.
we said, do not make it look any different.
But-
The lights themselves might look a little bit different just because they're gonna be updated, but other than that, yeah.
But it's not supposed to be there?
Technically, we're not supposed to have any lighting signs, anything that scrolls,
So
anything
who
that.
approved that?
It's been there
It
since.
predates
It
when they made
predates
that.
the ordinance.
Yeah, right,
The ordinance was there after they put the sign up.
yeah.
So because it's been there this whole time, it's been just grandfathered in. But because they're updating it, they now have to go through the steps that anybody else would to put in an electric sign in.
And they can issue a variance or whatever.
Yeah,
to
we,
allow it.
the
Right.
planning and zoning can take care of that.
So is the current light, is it on 24/7?
It is, it's
Okay.
been out though since about Christmas time.
Oh, has it?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it
Okay.
hasn't functioned, so, yeah.
And then is the brightness or the lumens or whatever, are they comparable? Will it be brighter, about the same?
It should be about the same, yeah, yeah.
That's all that I have. Anybody else? Any other questions?
I think if anything, you guys kind of covered what I was thinking.
Sorry?
You kind of covered the questions that I was thinking of asking, so.
And I'm forgetting to speak up, so we're all
Yeah,
speaking
thank
up,
you.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else from you?
So
Do you have questions, Derek?
we're just voting to send it to planning and zoning.
Just
To apply
as
for
long as you
variance.
approve it, it goes forward.
Yeah, that's what that is the motion that looks like we're headed for now, is if we're finished hearing from everybody, so do we have a motion to recommend this move to planning, zoning and variance, or excuse me, and variance for this light to be replaced at First National Bank, the sign at First National Bank?
Yeah, I make a motion to accept and send it to planning and zoning.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on to this motion? Okay, hearing none, let's take a vote.
Okay,
Ms. Tara?
take a vote. Elizabeth,
Yes.
Derek,
Yes.
and I don't think Carlos is on. Chris,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
all right, it's approved.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you all. I appreciate you. Okay. Moving on to our second public hearing tonight.
And will be Paul Glenn with 609 to 6013 Arizona.
And do we have Mr. Carlos online or not?
Not, he was trying to get on, it doesn't look like he,
Okay, we'll open the hearing on certificate of appropriateness application for 609 to 613 Arizona. Mr. Paul Glenn.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. My name is Paul Glenn. I'm with PSTM Architecture. We're a historic preservation firm. Our project here is we call it 613 Arizona, but it is 613, 609. There's apartment buildings. It's on the corner of Arizona and Pine Street. The building itself is part of the historic preservation zoning district. It is adjacent to the Corazon Historic District.
Well, yeah, because I'm kind of curious about that, but I don't want to interrupt you, so
Oh, that's okay.
go on
Yeah.
and
So-
we'll come back to that maybe.
So we do want to go through the formalities of this, and we do want to acknowledge without a doubt that this building is a piece of the historic district. It was severed from the district, I believe, back when they ran I-25 through, but it is really a special building, as are a number of others in the area. So the building is a two-story, 8-unit apartment building. It's mission style. I believe you have a photograph in the
Yeah.
package. And so it has a horizontal parapet, single sloped roof from the front of the building to the rear. It is constructed of a locally sourced brick. And it is a poured foundation. It's raised in that it's proximity to the floodplain there. So the main floor is raised up with a concrete wainscot and a walkout basement. The primary facade of this building faces Arizona, and it incorporates 2 single and 1 double raised entry masonry porticos. These porticos include what they call a stacked balcony on top of the building. The stacked balcony, and there's a half wall railing on both floors, capped with poured concrete. The stacked balcony and main floor parapet both include a Spanish style roof. All the bracketing and the tiles are of tin, they're not clay. Unique feature. It is a Spanish style, and the balance of the 3 facades are just a simple clay brick bearing wall design, kind of utilitarian with no ornamentation. This building, when designed, had a steam and gas heating system, which was unique for its age, and very modern at the time. And there was a kitchenette used in each of these units as opposed to a full kitchen. And each of these 8 units include a Murphy bed. built in Riverside, which was kind of modern and state-of-the-art at the time. So the unique portion of this building, it was built, according to the Library of Congress maps, this building's original name was called Malvernia, and was built in 1913 on the current site. It first appears on the Sanborn Fire Maps 1917, and it hasn't changed. Its depiction is the same on those maps. It's remained unchanged. It did have an enclosure of wood stairs when it was built. The unique portion of this building, or unique aspect of this building, is, in fact, it is a Hendrickson Rapp building. It was purchased in 1905 by Joseph Fowler and William Jones. It was a vacant property. A few years later, in 1909, it was sold to A.C. Hendrickson and Tom G. Chittenden. At the time of the sale, Hendrickson had just started being a draftsman for Rapp and Rapp. Isaac Hamilton Rapp and William Mason Rapp. He eventually became, A.C. Hendrickson eventually became a partner in that firm. So it is without a doubt considered a Rapp and Rapp, Hendrickson and Rapp building. In 1913, this vacant parcel was developed into the 8-unit apartment building that you see now. Its style is considered a mission style, and it is only one of two that Hendrickson and Rapp did as far as an apartment building. They're well known for all their public and municipal buildings. So we believe this is a very important building. What we intend to do to this building is restore it, just historically restore it just as it is. We do have to bring the rear of the building up to code as far as handicap accessibility to one of the units. We also are upgrading the exit stairs in the rear to steel instead of wood. The front will remain unchanged. The building in its current state, structurally, the front porticos have tilted forward to the east, and so we will structurally rehabilitate those porticos. It's an incredible building. It's been neglected over the years. It had some significant water damage on the roof and floor structures as well as the front porticos. However, we're in the process of finishing up the drawings for the rehabilitation of this project. And we would welcome the opportunity of the commission to give us a certificate of appropriateness on this building. It's truly a treasure. And even though it's not part of the Corazon district, it should have been, without a doubt. I think over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, we were before the planning and zoning, and we did get this parcel rezoned from CC to HP. So just so you know, we did, and we were approved for that. And so even at that time, long ago, this building was known to be special.
Thank you, and I think I just wanted to ask before we go around and get other questions. So just so I'm clear, I think it's appropriate to ask that, so this was sort of a voluntary act on your part to request a certificate because it is not in the Corazon?
It's not in the Corazon, but it is in the historical district. So it's just on the outskirts of, like, one block over from.
Right.
So it's actually is zoned for historical district. It's just not zoned for Corazon Historical District.
Okay.
No, and there have been rumors in town that you know, the Corazon district would get expanded. So we felt we'd be one step ahead of the game. We really value this building. And so we want to do everything we can to make sure that it, you know, this property here is right around the corner. The original, back when we had this rezoned, we also had to subdivide it. So this parcel was part of one parcel that included 101 Pine Street, a vacant parcel behind it, and this parcel here. They were all contiguous at that time with the Corazon district. The line runs right down the middle of the street, right down the middle of Pine Street. So at that time, when we had it rezoned to HP, that whole area was rezoned HP.
Okay, thanks, I appreciate
Mhm.
that back.
It is listed as of 2001 as eligible for, from the Compass being historical.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Are those units currently rented, or what's the status?
No, it's
Has it
been
there
vacant for years.
Oh,
The one next
Long,
door
long
to it
time.
was
Yeah.
fixed up.
Mhm. And we intend on, you know, most of these buildings that we historically rehabilitate, there's an adaptive reuse aspect to it where we try to reuse it either, you know, in its same form or a different form. This building actually fits exactly what it was used for. It was an 8-unit building and it will remain an 8-unit building.
Is that rare relatively? I mean, that it's already kind of, that those units survived as individual units, or is that?
You know, what's unique about this building, no, you know, there was a lot of apartments and tenements back at the turn of the century. What's unique about this building, Wrap and Wrap, at this period in time, we're leaning towards California as design models for them. We recently historically rehabilitated East Street School. East Street School is a Wrap and Wrap building that was
Right.
based on a California design. It was one of the first schools in the state that actually had a courtyard and a beautiful wraparound single-story building. And but so their influence was California at that time, and so it makes sense that this kind of came from that as a mission style. And what was, like I said, what was unique about this building is they used a kitchenette as opposed to a full kitchen, which was traditional at the time. They also had built-in Murphy beds, which
Yeah.
allowed smaller units, more rentable, more marketable units. So it was really pretty innovative at its time.
Tiny houses,
Yeah,
sort of.
the predecessor. But so we are keeping all of the woodwork that is in there right now. It's a very simple, 1x type trim, kind of a headband as well as a base band. We are keeping the Murphy beds as part of the design. The floor plan is not going to change. That's what's kind of nice about this. The bathrooms are where the bathrooms were. We're upgrading the mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems throughout the building. The kitchen, there was one small bedroom, or small, I guess you could call it a bedroom in the back, still be a bedroom. We are taking the kitchenette and expanding it slightly into the center portion of the building and creating an island breakfast area. So we are upgrading that. What we are still doing, which is what we did over at East Street School, is we're going with what we call a 3/4 kitchen. So they're not the type of under-counter refrigerator type things you'd see in a tiny house. However, refrigerators are smaller. It comes with a dishwasher, comes with a normal sink, and a normal range, just a little bit smaller, with the 3/4 size. And it fits its design well as far as the spatial use of the kitchen.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody with any other questions or comments?
I'm just curious about the fixtures and like bathtubs. Are those all going to be original, or?
No, so there are no bathtubs in there. They were all removed. All the fixtures were removed. What we are doing is we are going with period style light fixtures. We've got school lamps, we've got Craftsman style, which is very similar to a Mission. So we do have fixtures that are appropriate to this building, both interior and exterior. They'll have showers, they will not have tubs.
And I'm curious, these are balconies on the front?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, I know, it seems like maybe the ledges are a little low. Is there a zoning issue there, or?
No, so it is, this building in its end form will comply with IBC codes. The balcony railings are low. There's really nothing we can do that is allowed on a historic building. What we feel we are going to do is these balconies each have a pair of windows separated by a French door. We are going to fix the French door. So the appearance will be the same. It's just we cannot warrant the liability of having that door open.
Oh, so the balconies won't be usable?
They won't be
No.
accessible. Okay, that was, yeah, so that,
Yeah.
okay, that explains.
Yeah.
And I just kind of want to remind everyone that, our recommendations are based on the guidelines in our municipal code only for historic
Mhm.
preservation and planning and zoning
Oh,
variance
sure.
as jurisdiction beyond that. So,
Right.
yeah, any other questions, comments,
It's an exciting
clarifications?
project for us. We love the building. We've seen you before, and we appreciate the opportunity to present these buildings to you and to bring these buildings back to life. I mean, a lot of them have been vacant for years.
Yeah, it's a unique little block there
Mhm.
to observe and do nice neighborhood sort of
It reminds
feel.
me of Chicago.
It does.
It does.
Well, I've been born and raised in Chicago. I know about that, yeah. But that's the unique thing too, is we have met with the city on a different note regarding this 1 block stretch or 2 block stretch of Pine between the Eagles building, Pine Street building, and turning the corner here. And it is a unique street, and we would love to call it a district. Chicago has many, many districts, most of them, based on geography or based on ethnic. And so we feel this is the perfect model for that here in Trinidad too. And this is just the start of it. It's exciting.
To kind of see it, yes, yeah. All right, thanks again, we appreciate it, and I think we'll go ahead and move on with that. Entertain a motion to send this on to planning, zoning, and variance. Does anyone want to make that motion, please?
I'll make that motion. To move this on to the planning and zoning for variance.
This one doesn't have to go for variance.
Oh, okay.
This is just to get, just for because they're doing the historical.
Okay.
It's-
I was just using the full name of the commission.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to go in front of planning and zoning.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just a certificate of
Oh.
appropriateness.
They just want the certificate of
Okay,
appropriateness.
so we
Okay.
will strike that
Strike that
motion.
motion.
Yeah.
And start over, and that we are making a recommendation to accept the certificate of appropriateness for this location. May I have a motion to that effect?
I motion that.
You may say so moved.
So moved.
Is there a
Thank you.
second?
I second.
Thank you.
And may we have roll call?
All right, Elizabeth,
Yes.
Derek,
Yes.
Carlos isn't here, Chris,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
all right, it's passed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks
Looking
for
forward
coming
to it.
see it.
Truly
Yeah.
appreciate it. Yes, we're excited about this project.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping us move this forward. Thanks, sir.
We have to be more housing.
What's up?
Help address the lack of housing as well.
Yeah, perhaps. Okay. One moment, please. Close that public hearing on 609, 613 Arizona Avenue and open our third public hearing for certificate of appropriateness application for Amtrak. This reads for a shelter facility, and if we could maybe start with staff report, just a little bit of clarification on that, Tara, and then move on to whomever's here to speak for Amtrak.
All right. The executive summary is Amtrak is upgrading the existing station platform and parking area for Trinidad. They are constructing a station building for the use of the Amtrak customers. The station will be located at 110 West Pine Street. This says, per Don DePrince from the State Historic Preservation has issued a notice that they have reviewed the information provided and has been attached. The application provided is complete based on the criteria that is outlined in Trinidad Municipal Code 14171. So they are coming just for a certificate of appropriateness.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody from Amtrak here this evening?
I think Ruth is on teaming.
Okay, can you hear us?
I'm Ruth Stavick, and I facilitated the filing of the application for a certificate of appropriateness. But presenting tonight on behalf of Amtrak is Jenna Solomon, our Cultural Resources Manager.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thanks. And is there anything you want to add to the documents that were submitted?
No, we just wanted to mention that this portion of the historic district is considered non-contributing to the historic district while it's in the boundaries of the historic district. At the time of the listing in the National Register, there was a 1960 station, which is what we know to be the third building that was on the site. There was a 1880s, circa 1880s building that was served as a station, and then the circa 1900 building that served as a Harvey House hotel. Both of those were demolished and replaced by a 1960 station, which was standing when the district was listed on the National Register in 1973. At the time, the period of significance was 1880 to 1920, so while it was included in the boundary for its association with the district, the building itself and the parcel was considered non-contributing. And then that building was subsequently demolished, and the platform that exists there was built after that. So our project is limited to ADA improvements at the existing station with the existing infrastructure to make them compliant with the ADA standards for the Department of Transportation, for transportation facilities, and so our actual project, which is funded by the ADA improvements grant, is exclusively for the upgrading of existing infrastructure, and the platform shelter will be installed as part of a separate Amtrak project that is subsequent to the ADA improvements. But the delineation of the future location of the station building is on our plans because it is being planned for its future location, but it's not technically part of our scope of work.
And I just have a question about that for clarification. So that's what I thought I was understanding from reading the project description. So even though the waiting shelter is included in the drawings and in this packet, that's not happening, or that's not subject to, for instance, our approval tonight? Or can you explain that a little bit more?
So Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act is contingent upon where the funding comes from. So the funding source for the ADA improvements project is from FRA, specific to ADA improvements for existing infrastructure. We're not able, as terms and conditions of that funding source, able to provide amenities that don't currently exist. Just able to ensure that the existing amenities are made ADA compliant or the DOTAS standards for the transportation facility standards. So as a result of that, the installation of the passenger shelter is technically separate a separate project because we have to distinguish between what is being funded by the ADA grant and so the delineation of the location on the plans is from a separately funded project through Amtrak Engineering. But it is shown on the plans, and we provided the plans for what the building actually looks like in order to for the request for the certificate of appropriateness within the historic district boundaries. I just wanted to make sure that was understood. So as a result, the State Historic Preservation Office's approval of our project did not include the approval of the appearance of the station building. It was exclusively about the upgrades at the station itself, as it exists currently.
So the building itself will come sometime thereafter, the ADA, the other improvements?
This is true, yes. Ruth might have a better idea of the timeline for that. I don't have that information, unfortunately.
I mean, we do have multiple programs running simultaneously at Amtrak, and when we have a chance to, we try to combine the work effort. So we showed it on the plans because, as Jenna said, we are planning for it, and it might come just right on the heels of it. Part of the issue is that I believe there's a 7 or 8 month lead time on these products, so that's going to be a factor. But I anticipate that shortly after we're finished, paving the parking lot, that shelter will be there. It's just coming from a different pot of money, so we have to track it separately.
Okay, and that's what. So are both those pots of money approved and available at this point, or not?
Yes.
They are.
Yes, they are. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this is one of the last outside approvals that we need. We showed the plans to a group of the city manager and engineering team and the permitting team, and they noticed that dotted line there that said future shelter, and they wanted to see what it looked like and asked for that we submit for a COA, and here we are.
So is this going
Tara, do you have anything?
I was just asking, so are we approving the shelter or are we approving just the ADA improvements?
I think just the ADA.
So my understanding is the shelter.
Oh.
I just wanted to let you know that the Section 106 response from the Colorado SHPO was separate and was just for the improvement of the existing infrastructure at the station.
Okay. So we are approving just the...
Though you have separate jurisdictions, so I just wanted to let you know.
And I apologize for all the questions, if you bear with me. So, History Colorado did not approve the warming station, the building?
They didn't review it because it would be a different project that would come through from a different funding source, since the ADA program's not allowed to fund it. So we have different portions of Amtrak that do Section 106 approval for different projects, as the scopes of work are specific to those funding sources.
So we're going to need to just do the shelter then, is what we're looking at.
Right. So looking at the plans for the shelter and using only our design guidelines as we're instructed to do you have any input on that, Ms. Tara?
I don't believe so, because I think they had already gone through and checked all of what we allow within the historic preservation areas. I don't believe that, I didn't see any metal or anything on there.
I thought the structure was metal.
Oh, wait, no. But not the yeah, the color and stuff, because they show different colors.
That is correct, and we actually sent the whole color sample to the group that we met with, and said that we would go with whatever color they chose. I don't believe I've seen a selection yet. We asked for actually 2 or 3 in case there were delays with a particular color. So if you feel there is a color that falls more within your guidelines, we'll be happy to take that.
They're on page 70 and 71, right after the plans.
when you say the group that you met with, meaning our city manager?
Yeah, they had a meeting with our city manager and development team. I believe it was,
Yes, we did.
engineering
Chris
and-
Hall, Audrey Garrett, Mark Bitchell, Steve Ruger, Steve Curro, Jenny Jackson, Bob Just, Dave Bacharach,
Yeah, it was the development team.
Jeremy Wilson, John Wilkinson, Nathan Eden.
Well, I know that certainly the public has wanted and needed a waiting shelter. I myself have waited on that coal platform without any shelter several times, so I know there's definitely a need for it. I'm a little uncertain about the design guidelines and the actual plans that were submitted, and I didn't focus so much on that in my review because I think I was looking at the ADA, the curbs and the distances that needed to be changed, etc.
Do you need more time to look everything over?
Anybody else?
So the shelter building elevations start on page 64 and go through page 68.
Oh, yeah. C. Is it, I don't have, I have like C dash numbers or A dash.
Oh yeah,
numbers.
I'm sorry, let me give you that. Hold on, I have it right in front of me on my other screen. Sorry. Ruth, maybe you have it at quicker access than I do. Hold on 1 second.
Thank you.
So the last page of plans is labeled Y006, and then the elevations for the shelter itself are subsequent to that. They're a smaller page.
Would you mind, I apologize if you could just sort of give us a summary of that verbally, just the materials, I think it's at 10 by 12. There were windows, yes, no, metal benches inside, concrete, what's the word, foundation. Can you just paint us a little bit of a picture if you don't mind?
Sure thing. Ruth, feel free to supplement the description as well. So it's a prefabricated passenger waiting shelter. It's 1 story. It's 9, almost 10 feet tall. It's only 120 square feet. And the footprint itself is going to be 10 by 12. And then the metal walls and standing seam roof will both be painted with colors specified, decided on together between Amtrak and the Historic Preservation Commission if you have a specific request for a color. So it's very basic, but it is, I think it's a very standard item that we tend to use these prefabricated shelters.
Right.
It's a shelter as opposed to a building.
Understandable, and I just appreciate your patience. So I wonder
Yeah, no problem.
if there are any questions or thoughts from other commissioners.
I guess I'm curious, so the new construction that happens in the district is, has to conform to these same guidelines.
Yes.
So I guess if it's a pre-constructed building, maybe it says here that in our guidelines that the corrugated metal or prefabricated metal panels are prohibited in the historic district. So I guess that's my, I'm wondering about how that.
Because it's outside of the Corazon, it's in our historic district, but not in the Corazon Historic District.
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's why they're allowed.
So it's within the boundaries of the district, but within the district, usually parcels themselves will be labeled as contributing or non-contributing. So this one is not just labeled as non-contributing, but it's also geographically separated from the rest of the district on the other side of the bridge and across the river. So it's actually completely not visible from the district itself. That's on the, even if you stood on the bridge, that might be the most that it's visible from the heart of the district, if you will. Excuse me I couldn't resist that pun. But so while it is located within the boundaries, that portion of the district has no historic fabric remaining.
Okay, very helpful. Thank you for that additional
You're welcome.
explanation. So, based on that, any other questions before we ask for a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for these plans submitted by Amtrak that we just reviewed and discussed?
I'll make a motion to approve the
Chris Brandt
application.
moves to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Can we have a roll call, please, Tara?
Elizabeth? Do you, Elizabeth?
Yes.
Sorry. Derek?
Yes.
Carlos isn't here. Chris?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Okay,
It's approved.
motion passes. Thank you all for your time tonight and your education.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, we appreciate it. Thank you.
We look forward to getting started on the project so you will all have better amenities in your city.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Hearing closed.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.
We're really gonna be looking like Chicago.
I'm sorry?
I said we're really gonna be looking like Chicago soon.
Oh, you mean by having a shelter at the bus station, yeah?
Yeah, I was thinking of London when I was there. They have those waiting stations.
Yeah.
They're a little older.
Let's see your agenda.
Oops, do you need an agenda?
I just misplaced it on my paper. So, okay, let's move on and look at item number 5. So we have several items for discussion. First, starting with the vice chairperson nomination, we're going to talk a little bit about our ECHOS 23 video, which we really need to preview hopefully at our next meeting, October 11th. We're looking at our participation in the Smithsonian exhibition and whether or not this video of our ECHOS event might be appropriate for that purpose. I want to talk a little bit about Ms. Shirley's contribution to the HPC, and then also consideration for a retreat for us on November 8th. That's the day after Election Day, and hopefully people had items to discuss there. So let's start with talking about our vice chair position. So I am the chair until the end of this year, because we looked at 1 year of service, and I would plan to ask for someone else to serve as chair beginning in January. We'll see, we'll have that discussion, but for now I'm wondering if there are any nominations for a vice chair. If you all have any suggestions or thoughts on them.
Having just joined, I would
Being
so-
brand
Yeah.
new.
I prefer to wait a little bit before I can
Yeah. Or
get a better
just,
feel for how.
Just jump right into it.
and I keep asking you, Tara, I'm sorry, is Carlos with us or not?
I don't believe
No, he
is.
tried to get in. I was communicating with him,
Yeah.
and he had a black screen.
Turns out they disconnected the internet and reconnected it in another place. So they had to fix.
Carlos is the only other commissioner.
Yeah.
And how long has he been on?
I don't know, 18 months, maybe,
No.
something like that? You think
7
less?
months.
How long have you been on the commission?
2 years.
Well, you seem like the
Well,
obvious.
that's,
And I can't make a motion,
Right.
so I'm just saying.
I'm scared. I'm trying to.
For vice chair?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not gonna.
no, because we already talked about it.
So the discussion is for vice chair tonight. If we don't have anyone who accepts the nomination at this point, you know, we can continue to talk about it. But I do hope that we can fill those two in positions, and this will be partly in combination with our discussion about a retreat. So we can go ahead and move on to item B. And that's the Echoes 23 video. So we had, as some of you may know, our second annual Echoes of History event in June. It was, I think, really well done, thanks mostly to Ms. Jean Delisio, who is no longer on the commission, but we all pitched in. It was a really, I have said, if not to take anything away from the event itself, it was a heavy lift for us, about 3 or 4 people to do. Derek did a lot with we had a baseball game, or heritage baseball game that second day. So I think that we still want to do an annual event, but the question here is that we had a Jeff Montoya Picket Wire videotape the whole thing. He did interviews, he did tons of footage. He was paid by the city to do that and has been editing that video since. I've asked him to, if we could please look at it, definitely by our next meeting, that's October 11th.
Mm-hmm.
So the thought would be, and this is all open for discussion, is that he would come to our next meeting, he would show us what he's put together, because he can explain it, you know, and talk about the interviews, etc. And I think it's going to be something that I would love for the city to use ongoing in various ways to promote tourism. And I think having this Echoes of History event in some shape or form every year is a really, really good idea. And I'm not sure that personally I would want to go through that again. I think that we need support. We need, like a lot of other folks are saying, it's not a reflection on anybody, on the city, any participants, an event planner who could help us figure out what to do, you know, and how to do this. But I think it could be one of the, I thought I heard the number 3, that the city is looking for big city-sponsored events to do, to bring back some of the things, you know, arcade and the blues festival, etc. I think this event should be one of those top items myself. But I would really love to see the videotape, the footage that Jeff has. So that's my thought. That's where he would come to the meeting, if that works for everybody.
Yes.
Okay. And along those same lines, and that goes to item 5C, whether or not, you know, we might be able to, we talked a little bit about how does the Historic Preservation Commission, if we should, participate in the Smithsonian exhibition that we're doing. Does everybody kind of know what that is?
Yeah.
At the Space to Create, it's kind of a big deal. They have a whole 5-week sort of period or span where they want to do companion events to the actual physical installation. And so initially, when Ken Chapin came and gave us a presentation last month, I guess it was, you know, we talked about, well, you know, what could we do that we're already kind of doing so that we can participate, but also knowing what our, you know, what are our limits, or what is our bandwidth to do more work than we're already doing. And a suggestion was made to use maybe our, I think it's the 2021 survey, you know, identify a couple of the, maybe the less famous historic structures in town and do some little open houses. People could go to those and so on. That would still need coordination. The other thought that I want to throw out to y'all tonight to consider would be this video. The video of our Echoes of History event that we did in June. So we'll see what Jeff presents to us on October the 11th. And my thought was perhaps then that can be screened at Space to Create as one of their companion events, that would be our contribution. And I think it could be pretty cool. I mean, we
Yeah.
could certainly invite the community and lots of folks to come and look at that. What do you think, Derek?
I just don't know, like, I don't know what we could do with that event. I mean,
Which event,
the Smithsonian. I mean, from the way it sounded, it's like all different places that are gonna do things, right? Different events. I mean, like, where do we come in talking about saving buildings and, you know what
Well,
I'm saying?
and I'm curious, you know, I'm a little bit familiar about this exhibit, and the theme is, it's like crossroad, or is it, it's about
Crossroads.
change in rural America.
Right.
So I guess I first want to see the video, but make sure whatever we do is actually, you know, applicable to the theme that they're
Right.
trying to create. Because I wonder, are all these things really going to convey that sort of theme, or is this kind of like anything historical and
Right.
Trinidad? Yeah, that seems like a little bit of an overshoot. So I would kind of just want to make it. I mean, maybe that's up to them. You know, they're whoever's, you know.
I mean, I personally, I want to volunteer my own time to it, but I just don't see what we can do as a commission.
meaning submitting some portion of the film to, as part of the Smithsonian exhibit? Is that
Yeah,
what
well,
you-
I mean, like, if it's a crossroads or something, like, how are we gonna put our film, incorporate the film into their event? That's my, I don't understand.
Well, I think that's what
it's
you're
kind of saying
hearing,
the same
yeah.
thing. Like, it doesn't. How well does it apply
Right.
to the theme? And
Yes, no,
maybe there are sections of the film
Right.
that, you know, could be.
I don't
pulled.
know for sure.
I don't either. So I guess the next step would be to watch the film.
So I don't think we can shoehorn that film into making it a perfect fit
Yeah.
for the Smithsonian. But I think there might be, I mean, Paul Glenn was here this evening, he did an amazing presentation, I thought, and many other people thought, at our Echoes event. He talked about East Street School, he talked about something else, but people were just riveted, they wanted to hear more from him. So I think there are sections like that, and that do fit into that crossroads. It's sort of a then and now.
Well, right, you're saving, it's how things have changed over the years and how it's come around to where we're appreciating what we had, and the change in preservation over the decades has really changed in
Yeah.
this town and across the country. And it might be able to relate to that.
Yeah.
Once we see the video, we'll know more, of course. But that might be a way to incorporate it. And it wouldn't take a lot of effort on our part, I don't think, to get it shown someplace. Maybe even
Right.
have it on a loop somewhere that people can just
It
put
could
up
be
on
that,
the
or it could be a screening, if
or a
there's
screen. Oh,
enough
for sure.
footage
Yeah.
that we could say, we're doing this on Thursday night from 5 to 7 or whatever it's Space to Create, we'll be there, we'll talk about historic preservation, but we're gonna show this film, you know, I
And,
think people might like it. Or we could show it at the Chappelle House,
Well, it'd be
or
good
someplace.
publicity for the commission and what we do. So also,
Pardon?
it would be good publicity for the commission itself,
Yeah.
possibly.
I think in using resources that we already have is very important. I think it's a theme that I think could be recurring throughout all the work that we do. We have this treasure of a city. How is that being used for tourism, for any of the other quality of life? Why does the Red Dirt, festival want to be here and start on Main Street? Because it's beautiful and historic. So I think weaving that into other efforts is important.
Right. And maybe we need to communicate with the Space to Create or the Smithsonian people themselves to see if there's a space for that, once we know
Yeah.
what we're dealing with.
Yes, for sure,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's just kind of a proposal to do that, so. Alright. And then,
Just one more thing about that.
Sure.
You also mentioned they were talking about possible open houses in these locations on that, that seemed like maybe would take more work, and
Yeah.
maybe we don't wanna consider that, is that? Or
It would take more work in what?
maybe we don't wanna consider it, or, I don't know if it's something we wanna talk about.
Consider what?
That was, you were talking about for the
That was the initial thought, the way that we could contribute to the Smithsonian.
Oh, okay, okay.
It was
Thank
just
you.
sort of, we have this survey, it's a resource. We have potentially a couple of, well, many, but we could choose a couple. They could even be residential homes where we talk to the owners, we say, would you be willing to, serve cookies and tea, from 5 to 10 on, whatever night. I mean, I think that would be really personal and wonderful, and it would take more coordination and work on our part, and I'm not sure the time frame that we have or that we're willing to do that. And it's just an idea. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So then it kind of morphed into, well, if we have this video footage that might work and talk about the commission, talk about the then and now, that would be an option as well. So, okay. So moving on to item 5D, I just want to publicly thank Shirley, who was on the commission for about 2 years. She's a retired archaeologist and contributed a lot to the work here. She did some self-education on Section 106 and some of the more sort of governmental impact of historic preservation. She worked really hard on Echoes 23, did all kinds of stuff. So thank you, Shirley, wherever you are.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. And then item
I just realized that was a DD twice.
That's okay. I was gonna say DD, but I didn't wanna poke you or anything. Okay, and that is consideration for our retreat on November 8th, 2023, and this is also all open for discussion. So, November 8th was our next regular meeting, regularly scheduled historic preservation meeting, and the thought was, not our next, but our one in November, excuse me, is that we need to, I believe, do some planning and say, what are we about, what are we doing, talk about Echoes, our Echoes of History annual event. Do we want to do that again, and how will that look, that kind of thing. I also want to, here's my notes, talk about the possibility of a historic preservation plan. I don't know where Steve Weaver is with that, or if I've mentioned it a couple times, and other municipalities have them. And basically all it is saying sort of what is the vision for historic preservation. I think there's a lot of ad hoc stuff. Yes, please.
The historic preservation was talked about last year when Keeley came on, and they decided it was repealed in 2002
Right.
by someone sitting in here, and then in 2010 or 11, 12, somewhere in there, it was made voluntary, or at some point in the last several years. And you can ask Mr. Ruber, I think between him and Keeley, they decided to leave it as voluntary and not, because there's a lot of people that would oppose it.
Well, yes, and I think at a minimum, what we were talked about at one of our work sessions was even just have a 1 or 2 page sort of a timeline, basically outlining what you just said, so that we know where we've been, where we're going. We had some discussion about the municipal code and changing that around. That kind of got shifted into mostly planning and zoning, but just so that we have a big picture idea of historic preservation. So it may or may not be, it could be just a pretty modest recollection of what's transpired, and I've looked online and I have looked at other cities, and they do indeed have historic preservation plans. And I understand that we have a strategic plan, we have a area-wide planning that's going on.
Yes.
So I would certainly not, I mean, we're just the Historic Preservation Commission. But I think we need to have a seat at the table and a little bit more of a voice than we have had, than Historic Preservation has had in the past. So that's why I mentioned a Historic Preservation Plan. We need to talk about a budget. Do we have a budget? We need to talk about making sure that, as recommended by History Colorado, that we have enough public information on our website that people can access information about historic preservation in Trinidad. We need to make sure that our primary duty to landmark local sites is being done. I think we only landmarked, and again, not a criticism of anybody whatsoever, one building last year, was it? City Hall, I think was, and we have a list, a laundry list, to-do list of local landmarking that I'd really like to make sure that we at least target and we do them. That was like the band shell at Kit Carson Park. We had, I think, the firehouse. There was golf course, clubhouse, several others that were in line to be locally landmarked. So that's the other thing for a retreat. We've had the Historic Preservation Trinidad Historical Society, which, as some of you may know, has been an amazing source of information. Go ahead, Chris, or I'll just keep talking. Oh, we didn't say something.
I need to meet up with him, I haven't yet.
Yeah. Well, it'd be nice if we had representation. One of us could be a liaison to them. They've done amazing things. They've talked about wanting to have a heritage center. I'm not saying that that's necessarily our role for anybody listening or otherwise, but I think that possibly, these folks have stuff in their basements and in their garages, and it could be a worthwhile cause if, in fact, that fits the planning of the powers that be. So those are items that I would like to talk about at our retreat. What about you guys?
At this point, I don't really have much to say about that. I mean, it all needs, yes, we all need to, those are all great ideas that we need to work on. And it would also help us be a little more familiar with what's been going on.
And that would be one thing too that I hadn't sort of listed outright, would be a sort of an orientation for new members. What is it that we really do? We do local landmarking. We maintain our certified local government status, CLG status. Those were some basic things that I didn't really understand for over a year.
Right.
Before I was on the committee.
And we have to provide education to the public.
Yes, and education. So there's certainly within our ordinance, and then within the CLG, which is issued by History Colorado, that allows the city to apply for grants, etc. There are guidelines that we aren't supposed to meet as well. So those are kind of the outlines or the framework of what we do. We're not just talking about cool buildings, which I love doing, but I have to sort of rein myself in as well and say, what is our charge? And that's the parameters of that. And I would like, if there's a way to, sort of parse that out, we would be looking at doing probably it during the day, say 9 to 3, something like that, breaking for lunch, maybe space to create, but each of us taking a piece of this agenda and being responsible for presenting it. Tara and I maybe could get started with an agenda and circulate it amongst the commission, and if there's any part of it that you would like to volunteer to handle, that would be super.
Okay. That's
For the retreat?
Yeah, for the retreat. What time would you guys want to do something? 9 to 3 or?
I need to make sure I can get that
Yeah.
day off. I think I should be able to, but
That's why we talk about it this early.
yes, actually Wednesdays.
That way
Let
everybody,
me see what, I have to, some Wednesdays are not as good as others. Every other Wednesday I have a meeting, but,
we can also do later in the afternoon if it works better, doing it in the start in the afternoon and work it.
Yeah, we may not need to do, or we could even, well, we could start like
I
at,
guess-
go noon to 4 or something and just have a small break.
I guess I'm kind of confused about the breaking up everything and presenting it. Like, I thought we were gonna go there and just hash what we need out.
Well, I'm not keen on being responsible for all that discussion. I hear myself talk quite a bit. And, so I just think it's an investment by the group. So if there's a part that you want to talk about, like maybe ideas for Echoes 24, then you would just lead that discussion.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think we all have input on everything. I don't understand.
Oh, of course we would. But I'm just
so we would all, each of us would facilitate it different.
Yeah.
Right, so
Stick
so
with
one
it.
person doesn't have to do all the research and present it, or.
I mean, we're all gonna do research.
Yeah, we all have to know about all of it.
That's my point.
So,
I don't understand.
I guess just each of us would be a different.
Well, if you didn't want to, that would be up to you. I'm just saying, I think that that's a way to kind of spread the work around a little bit, so that's all. Anything else you think that would be worthwhile to discuss at our retreat? Do you want, I mean, we could just try to, I think, I'm kind of on the fence about, a longer day is a longer day.
Mhm.
And then, but trying to squeeze everything into a couple of hours, invariably you rush through stuff. I don't know. I just feel like we need to get some purchase on what we're doing
Well,
on the
we can
HPC.
schedule it for 4 hours or whatever, and if it doesn't take that long, it doesn't take that long. I
And if it takes longer,
mean,
it
and
takes
then
longer.
it takes longer.
It'll take longer.
That's just the nature of
I could
these
probably
things.
get that day off if we wanted to do it longer.
It'd
So
be-
do you want to
I'm-
say 9 to 3?
I'm
Yeah.
fine with whatever, because I'm pretty open with my
Okay.
schedule, so
Yeah,
that
November
sounds
8th,
good.
November 3rd.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
all right, thanks, Will. Item 6, new business and reports. Sorry?
The new business was updating historic preservation website.
Oh,
It cut it off and put it on the backside.
oh, okay. You want to talk about that, or what do you think?
That might be something for the retreat, but
You got a video to put up on it.
yeah, that's true.
I guess I didn't know we had a website.
Yeah, so on the city's website, there's,
Okay.
a section for boards and commissions, and then if you click on Historic Preservation Commission, there's
Okay.
a section. So I just printed out what it looks like, and it just has the names of the commissioners on it, when we meet, our ordinance, there's a link there. There's a little bit of history, as Tom kind of mentioned, about when we were certified as a local, as a CLG. There's some links to some past presentations that actually I looked at a couple years ago that are really good, that you might want to look at.
Okay.
Historic preservation as economic development tool, positive impacts of historic preservation, and then our 2021 historic resources survey plan is there, which is tons of amazing information. So if you could just pass that down to Tara, I was just going to give that to you to have as a
Oh, I already have it.
scribbled up. Did I send that to you?
Yeah, you sent it to me.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else on that? Okay, chairperson's report, I've just got city
Wait.
council, go ahead.
So what did we say about the website? We just have to update it?
Yeah, we need
talk
to
about it
yeah.
in the retreat?
Yep.
Okay,
There we go.
moving on. I'm sorry.
No worries. I've just got city council liaison update, and I've just been pestering to have a, you know, if you watch the city council meeting at the end, they'll have a report from whomever, Parks and Rec, culture, arts and culture, so on, and I just think it's really a good, efficient way to have more of a direct link to city council. I've been told different things at different times
I thought
about
we couldn't have one.
why we couldn't have one, because we do quasi-judicial stuff like we just did. City manager says that's not why. Indeed, anyone could watch. In other words, the prohibition, the reasoning for the prohibition was that, oh, if you have a city council member here, you're doing quasi-judicial stuff that might influence their vote later.
Because our stuff goes from here to,
Yeah.
can go to city council, and that's
But I
why.
asked Steve about it, and he said, well, they could watch any meeting, and that could happen on any subject. He did not think it was a conflict.
He said he'll talk to the mayor, but.
He did ask the mayor.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him yet.
Okay. So my guess would be is that, you know, we have our election coming up and that there's lots of stuff going on, but, I think we really need one, and I would like to keep it on the radar and keep pushing for that, so. That's all I have. Commissioners' reports, anything?
That was for the two new members.
So yeah, we just have Chris and Lauren. If you, I know we know you a little bit, but would you mind kind of giving us a little bit of your story?
Well, I moved here about a little over 2.5 years ago, and retired. I was working in San Diego and came to Colorado to retire because of family. And I've always had a deep appreciation for history that was instilled in me by my family, and a love for older homes and, you know, quality craftsmanship and things of that nature. And when I moved here, I bought a house it's in the Corazon district. It's on 3rd Street. It was built in 1888. And the house, and there's a cottage next door to it that was built in 1904 that I also own. And so, you know, I was lucky enough to find something like that. And I just want to see more buildings saved, and I really like the presentation this evening about those buildings, because I always drive by there and I go, those need to be saved. I do that a lot around town. So, any questions for me?
I don't think so. Is there any particular, so you've already said you have this sort of broad interest in preserving, you know, historic buildings.
Yes.
And, you know, maybe, and it's too early to know as we have this, and I think the retreat will be a good timing for new members, because then we can kind of meet more informally and just sort of, you know, dig into stuff. And but if there's any area as we go along that you feel, you know, that you can particularly contribute to, just hope you'll make yourself known, and you know, we can do that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, I moved here about 6 years ago from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I've been coming out here and visiting every now and then because I do software development work remotely, and so I'm kind of able to move wherever I wanted. So I really like this area. I moved here about 6 years ago. Really got into learning about the history, and you know, there's a lot of. I feel like this whole area is very not very well represented, like in the rest of the country. Like when I first moved here, I was thinking this is an area that could be really like an up and coming area in 5-10 years that people are going to want to be here, you know, because.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I've really gotten, you know, interested in the history and specifically the railroading history here. And so I've been doing a lot of research into that, and I'm actually trying to start a railroad history museum here. Is one of my goals, somehow or another. But I've been doing lots of kind of research in the last year. I've gone to 7 or 8 different railroad museums around the area and nearby states, and also I'm trying to start a model railroad club, like a model train club here. And there's one in Pueblo that I've joined, and trying to work with them and trying to get something started here. But anyway, I think that there's a lot of railroad history here that there's a ton of railroad history here that's not really well captured in a lot of ways. And there's only a few existing structures left, you know, from what was here. So that's something I'm really interested in, and I've thought a lot about, I don't know, I guess, you know, preservation is mainly, or I guess partially speaking of physical things, but I also kind of want to think of it as preserving, or at least, or, you know, recalling some of the old stories and, you know, historical knowledge that may have been lost, or, you know, that can be recovered in different ways, and integrating that into, you know, just like city communications. Like something I'm interested in is all the kind of historical markers and things that are in town, and how we could maybe improve those or add to those to incorporate other parts of history in town. I've got a lot of ideas about railroad tourism, also how to integrate the history of, you know, the railroading here with kind of marketing, tourism marketing attempts and stuff. So that's something I'm really interested in. But in general, I like history in general, and a lot of other things connect to the railroad in one way or another. You know, like mining and
No pun intended.
yeah. So, you know, mining and agriculture and cattle and all those things. You know.
And you're on other board, or?
Yeah, I just started the Urban Forestry Board.
Okay.
So actually, I have a degree in horticulture, with a focus on nursery and greenhouse management. But I did take a few arboriculture, tree type classes. But a lot of my knowledge around that is from the Tulsa area. That's where I got my degree. So I'm still kind of learning about what grows here and what's native and whatnot. So.
That's great. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
I'm
And
glad to be here.
Derek, do you want to give a brief background or bio?
Derek, I've been on the commission about 2.5 years. History buff. Graduated CSU Pueblo with a history degree. Don't really know how to use it. Currently writing a couple books. Not books, screenplays. So I'm working on a Western right now.
Who did you dress as for our echoes? What was your character or your?
George McJunkin. He was a black cowboy from New Mexico who discovered primitive bison. I think it was not bison. It was something primitive, but it wound up changing the thought of history back to Clovis Man, right? Like they didn't think Clovis Man was here or something, but then he proved that he was.
Also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
That's awesome. Is there Western screenplay related to this area in any way, or
Actually,
draw from it?
Actually, it's about Alfredo Baca, whose uncle was Felipe Baca,
Oh,
who is the founder of Trinidad. So,
okay. Cool.
but he's from southern New Mexico. So.
Yeah. That's cool. That's the other thing I've thought about. There are so many stories here that can be told.
Oh,
yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, like Billy the Kid's.
Yeah.
Billy the Kid was here, and
Yeah.
you know,
Bat Master.
what was her name? Mother
Mother
Jones.
Jones.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Mother Jones and Billy the Kid,
Yeah.
and Alfredo Baca or Felipe Baca were all real close.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
And I think the emphasis on storytelling was something we really want to keep alive and keep
Yeah.
integrating into anything that we're doing. So I think we're all on the same page with that. So I'll just close our meeting with my backgrounds in social work and law. Worked with aging services all of my career. I love working with older adults and their families. So right now I'm the regional long-term care ombudsman for our area, and I visit and work with people on complaints and concerns that live in nursing homes and assisted living. So that's my love, and I really feel fortunate to be able to do it. So, and historic preservation, you know, is I think similar reasons, just a love of the buildings, but also cultural preservations. We have, there's a lot of untold stories that predate Western civilization, including our indigenous roots. So, you know, it's always a matter of how, you know, how do you tell these stories, and how do you, I think, weave them into our economic development approach. And I just like to keep those themes running through everything that we do, because I think we need to be advocates for historic preservation as well as stay within our lane with what we're prescribed to be doing. So, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Anything else? Ms. Tara, can you tell us about
Oh,
you?
can I ask one more thing? We do have one more point here.
What?
7C report, or Development Services Administrator's report.
That's me.
Plaque for City Hall. Is that, oh, that's you. That's what you're out to. Sorry.
No, that's right. We did put the plaque on the city hall, and she didn't want to know, Audra wanted to know if you wanted to do like a ceremony, put a little rag or towel on it and reveal it or something.
I saw it the other day. I was out there and I thought,
Yeah, and it wasn't supposed to be put on. Our guy asked us where it needed to go. We were showing him, and he just decided to put it on the building all at once. So we didn't know if we wanted to do a ceremony and show it off, but I guess we could do that at the retreat or something if you want, take pictures.
That'd be nice.
yeah, I think if there's a way, if city manager is able to join us for our retreat, we really would love that for summer or all of it. I mean, I know he's super busy, but if we could, and maybe get, of course, we'll still have our mayor in place then.
Yep.
But maybe we could have small ceremonies, is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I think that would be great. We did that for the library and then for the Chappelle House, and I think it's important to acknowledge that.
I can ask him and see if he can join us.
You can ask. But I was
His
asking
parting gift to
about your background.
My name is Tara Booth. I have been with the city since February. My family is actually from here, but they're from Homey area, so I grew up with a lot of history actually. My mom, I think, was born in the wrong time frame. So my house, we didn't have electronics. We had the old-fashioned washing machine that you had to crank, and I didn't have a lot of technology growing up because of her. But she liked the old-fashioned way, so we grew up that way. So I'm used to history and learning to preserve it and take care of it. So it's actually a perfect fit for me. But this is my second meeting here, so I'm learning it just along with you guys.
Well, thank you for your help, especially tonight. So, alrighty then, we'll go ahead and adjourn tonight at 7:02. Thank you all.